Once again, good morning from the Oklahoma's video studio. I'm Dave Morris. She is Kitt Letcher, CEO, President of the Better Business Bureau of Greater Oklahoma. How are you?
Good, thanks.
We catch up with our friends at the Better Business Bureau, or perhaps the BBB, every month for a segment we call Trust Tuesdays. Last month, we kind of gave the overview of, hey, what can people learn from the Better Business Bureau? How can they utilize your service? This week, some social media, some customer service type tips, Kitt, on how to handle customer service's best practices for handling complaints.
Right.
So, for example, let me ask you this.
Okay.
My friend Jake Phelps over at Capital City Barbershop does a fantastic job. I see him every 3 weeks for the hair. He's over on Classen. Let's give him as an example.
Okay.
Let's just say that he is giving me a haircut, and I'm like, for whatever reason, in a bad mood. He got an eye, one of these things.
A little off center.
A little off center. And so I go on social media and complain about that on Twitter. What would you advise Jake to do?
Really, we want him to respond really promptly and say, I'm so sorry you had a bad experience. Come back in and let me fix your hair.
Own the situation.
Own it, apologize for it, sympathize with the person, and then give them a solution. You know, people have a bad experience for whatever reason. Maybe they misunderstood what was going to happen. Maybe you didn't tell him what you really wanted, or you brought him a picture of something he can't do.
Jake, make me look like...
There's only so much he can do.
I need to look like David Beckham. And he's like, I'm sorry.
Not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
But if you give him the opportunity to fix it, then he will probably do right by you. And especially if you've been a customer for a long time, he doesn't want you to put those bad things out there. But him taking the proactive step of saying, you know what, I'm sorry you had a bad experience. That was not my intention. Let me fix this for you, or let me give you a percentage off your next haircut. Something that will make you happy. Handling some communication or opening some communication, but then providing a solution. Absolutely. To where Jake would say, Dave, it's your hair. Have you seen your hair? Can't do that much with it. Well, and the other part of it is being really sincere. You know, if you say, I'm sorry, I don't believe you.
So some authenticity goes a long ways.
Absolutely.
What sort of scenarios have you guys seen where things just got really off?
You know, the biggest problem we see is when a business owner will say, yeah, I'm sorry you had a bad experience. There's really nothing we can do about that. And they just leave that person.
So that just sounds like the conversation's done.
It's done. It's over. I'm sorry you had a bad experience, but I'm not going to do anything to see it from your perspective, and I'm certainly not going to do anything to make you happy. Those are the situations that really can damage a business's reputation. So if they're sincere, they reach out to the person, they do it quickly, and then say, oh man, I'm really sorry that happened. What can I do to make it better? Even leaving it open to that person can make a huge difference, because they might come back with something that you wouldn't even think of. Versus the sorry, not sorry response. Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing that we see is from a consumer perspective, if they say, you know, I'm really unhappy and I want all of these things, and it's a really unreasonable ask, that business owner is kind of put into a corner. So if they have some solutions maybe in mind before they talk to the person, they can say, you know, we can do this and this, X, Y, and Z, but you're asking for a full refund and then a free service next time, and then for us to give like 3 free haircuts to your friends, that's probably not gonna happen.
Sounds like blackmail at that point. How much have things changed with social media these days? Everybody is hate watching TV or the elections or basketball or whatever.
Right, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And the biggest thing that we see is consumers not going directly back to the business and saying, I had a bad experience, can you help me with this? And instead, they're taking a very non-direct approach and going to social media and really blasting somebody who may or may not have known they did a bad job. And we see it a lot of times with business owners who aren't working in the field. And so maybe a technician or a service person for their organization did something, whether it's incorrect or correct, that leaves that customer with a bad taste in their mouth. And instead of going back to the business owner, consumers go into social media and say, this guy's worthless, you know, we had a really bad experience, where they could have called the business and said, I had a really bad experience, and handled it very differently.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. Kitt Letcher here, President and CEO of the Better Business Bureau of Central Oklahoma. How should a customer handle something?
I think getting back with the business directly, calling them and saying, this is who I worked with, this was my experience, this is what I thought was going to happen, so they can manage expectations. If you thought you were going to get something at a certain price, then that business can say, oh, I'm so sorry, here's the fine print, or here's where we have that offer listed. And so they can help you see, as a consumer, where you got that information and maybe where it was not exactly what you had anticipated.
Those
So-
expectations to outline or to go back, hey, here's what I thought was going to happen. That's probably a key point.
Yeah, absolutely. And giving the benefit of the doubt to the business, because they're not out to, take advantage of consumers. They want to do a good job. They're in business for a reason. They want to grow the consumers that utilize their business. They're not trying to burn bridges. And so giving them the benefit of the doubt and saying, I had a bad experience. How can you help me?
Let me ask you one other thing, and we talked about this in last month's segment of how to use the Better Business Bureau. But let's say you're doing some research online, and I've been researching various things online. Let's say, for example, you wanted to find a dentist, because someone at this set may or may not have been at the dentist this morning. But you see various reviews online. How do you know what to trust, what not to trust? Someone's just going wild on a rant about a dentist, but others are raving about the dentist. How do you know what to trust?
Yeah, that's a really tricky question. And I think that is one of the benefits of our services, because we vet all of our complaints and reviews that come through BBB.org. So if you came on and said, I have the best dentist, he's great, and I love going to see him, we're still going to send it to that dentist and say, is this really your customer? Is this your consumer? Do you know who Dave is? And then they have the opportunity to say yes or no. And then if you come back and say, I hate this guy, he does a really bad job, he jacked up all my teeth, I don't want to use him ever again, nobody use him, and you just blast him.
Nobody wants that, by the way.
Then we send it to the dentist and he can say, no, that guy's my competition, I've never worked on his teeth. And we send it back to you and say, okay, prove that you actually had an interaction with this person. We don't just take your word for it. You actually have to prove it. Because if you're going to really discredit that person's name and the reputation they've built in our community, then you have to prove your side of it too.
And that probably ends that conversation.
It does end that conversation, but it also makes sure that when other people are coming to look at our reviews and our website, that they know what they're seeing is legitimate.
Yep, adds to your credibility and legitimacy as well. She's Kitt Letcher, CEO, President of the Better Business Bureau of Central Oklahoma. She'll join us every month at Trust Tuesdays. This month, dropping some knowledge on how to handle customer complaints, perhaps how to lodge a customer complaint, and be sure to go to their website, bbb.org. Kitt, thanks so much.
Thank you, Dave.